Bailey Armour and Scott Shapiro back with another episode of Horse Sense. And this time we're moving our tack to Saratoga for Saturday's Travers card. They've got a loaded pick five sequence here towards the end of the card, and all grade one pick five, which I think is really interesting. And I know when the entries first came out and we had there was that graphic going around on Twitter that had the entries for all five of these races. I sent it to you like a week and a half ago. It's like, I'm so excited to talk about this. We have to move our topic this week to Saratoga instead of Ellis. So what do you think about the card so far?
Yeah, not to say that you're not excited for most weeks, but definitely a little bit on the muscle for this one, and understandable. I mean, we've got 5 grade ones over that late pick 5. Me, I like the last 4 of them, and it works out perfectly because Express Bet and First Bet has that 5 million points hit it, split it for the late pick 4. I kind of think that the Sword Dancer is a little bit chalky, but this is an outstanding card. We get these all stake sequences a lot. Most of them to me are not the best betting sequences we see, but I think this one's very, very fun from a class perspective, obviously, but to bet on as well. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned the Sword Dancer being super chalky, and my only 2 picks in this race are the 2 chalk ones, the 2 Applebee's, number 4 Silver Knot and number 2 Measured Time. Now, Silver Knot, I had some success. That's hard to say. With earlier in the year at Keeneland, he was an 11-1 winner in the Elkhorn, and since then he's been on an undefeated streak with jockey Slavy and Pratt. So really impressive there. I think that the top Appleby might be the number 2 Measured Time instead. What do you think?
Yeah, this is a very underwhelming race in terms of talking about, it's 2 really good horses in Measured Time and the other Appleby runner, Silver Knot. I think Silver Knot will get the jump. I thought Measured Time probably ran a little better, maybe has a little more upside, but you've got to worry a little bit about a Euro bounce, even though 2.5 months off, that's kind of an old handicapping angle. I'm not really sure if it works these days, but yeah, this is not a race I'm all that excited. And, I would just recommend if you're playing the pick 5, that you take a stand with one of the 2 favorites. Don't use both unless you like prices elsewhere, or obviously if you're playing against them, you can go as deep as you want.
Yeah, I definitely think there are some strong contenders in this race if you wanted to spread it out some, but for me, it's probably one of the 2 Applebee's. It's a pretty straightforward finish in this race.
All right, Ballerina time.
Ballerina time. I'm on Vava, of course, Cherie DeVoe, Irad Ortiz. Stellar combo, coming off a 2-win streak from the Derby City Distaff into the Chicago at Churchill. I think she's one of the faster horses here in the race, and she usually sits just off the leader to kind of sneak by them just in the final furlong. Probably be chasing Society, could be chasing another 1 or 2 here in the field. What's your take?
Well, Vava is, I don't have a lot of favorite type horses or fillies or mares, but she's become one, and that's because she's been very reliable when you've keyed her in horizontals or bet on her, whatever it might be. But she hasn't really necessarily, at least from the thoroughgraph perspective, continued to move forward like she had been in her career. She's going to be a super short price. She's easily the likeliest winner. But I think maybe a little bit vulnerable for the first time in a bit, in my opinion, against somebody other than Alva Star. But Society got handled by her last time, but that was off a long layoff. And I think she has a chance to make the lead here and be loose on it. And Steve Asmussen, a wizard at training horses in general, but getting horses ready for the race that he wants them ready for. Prepping in the Chicago off a long layoff. This horse has been freshened up since then, clearly pointing for this race. She's got some upside. I think if she's loose, she's got a shot to steal it. She's my top pick. And then the other scenario I could see Vava getting beat is if somehow she gets caught up and maybe some early moves. And if that's the case, I think Positano Sunset's going to be really flying late. Huge price here, but continues to get better for trainer Ian Wilkes, and also exits a really good effort in that Chicago where she split Vava and Society late.
I think the Chicago was a really good race, but my only issue with betting Society in races like this, it's either she goes to the lead and she's got the lead by 5-6 lengths, completely has the jump on them, and then wins by 5, 6, 7, 10 lengths, whatever. Or right in the final turn, she gets caught and then she loses by 15. So she's either a super bright shining star or just fades completely. There's never any oh, that was a good effort.
You're betting her to win though. It doesn't matter if she finishes second or third. You get paid the same as she last. Those are the best types. Those 9th by 15 stick out to the public, and it helps the price a little.
Yeah. Hey, we'll take it.
I mean, when horses stop, Bailey, they stop. Sometimes they keep going, but oftentimes when they stop, to me, if they get beat 8 lengths or 32 lengths, doesn't matter.
Yeah, they're all going to stop eventually.
That's true.
Hey, but we're going to keep going into the Forego 7 furlongs in the dirt for 4-year-olds. This is my single on the card. It's all gun pilot all day for me here in the Forego. Big, I don't care what you have to say. You're not going to talk me off this horse. I love this horse. Big Bay gun runner colt Steve Asmussen, the Wizards barn, gets recent Ellis Park dominator Christian Torres to ride. He's like third leading jockey at Ellis this year and ships out to Saratoga. So clearly, Asmussen knows what he's doing. Always sits towards the back of the pack most of his recent trips, especially with his recent success under Torres. And he'll win, hit the board, win, hit the board. He's due for a win today after running third in the True North behind Baby Yoda. It's all gun pilot for me all day.
Well, we're not going to hit this pick 4 together, pick 5, pick 1, because I'm against the favorites in here. And I'll talk quickly about Gunpilot, who I thought ran the race of his life into Churchill. And I don't think he's ever going to get back to that race. I thought that was a perfect trip victory against a grade 1 field that is grade 2 or grade 3 in actuality. And now he's drawn down to the rail. I just don't think he's going to get back to that race. Now, the horse that's going to take even more money is Mulligan, or at least on paper, Gunpilot 3 on Mulligan 8-5. It's another one that, last time in the Nehru, when he got out of the gate well, he was very tough, and he will be tough in here if he gets out of the gate well, but that's not something that he's regularly happens for him. So I don't know if we can count on that, drawing, not outside this time, between runners. I look to Cagliostro on top, the another Cherie DeVoe runner, son of Upstart's been quirky throughout much of his career. I got to see him in his debut down at Fairgrounds, as well as his second effort. Those were on the Compton Risen Star cards. He's kind of matured, though. He's always had talent, and I think the cutback and the outside post is going to lead to a really good trip here under Jose Ortiz. This one in search of his first grade 1, and I also want to give Baby Yoda a big look. We knew that he was going to regress last time after that effort in the True North because he never runs great races back-to-back. What he does do is run well at Saratoga, and I thought he ran okay considering, taking on better last time and kind of knowing he was going to regress. So I think Baby Yoda with that 4-for-7 record at Saratoga is worth using as well.
How could you not cheer for a horse with a name like Baby Yoda? I mean, come on. It's just a good
Star Wars fan here on the other line.
Oh, big Star Wars fan, for sure. Mandalorian, the whole 9 yards. Love good Star Wars.
You've already said more than I know. So
we need more horses named after Star Wars references. So I'm going to put that out into the universe for sure. All right, moving right along to the Allan Jerkens, race number 12. We've got another 7 furlongs on the dirt, this time for 3-year-olds. Number 5, Prince of Monaco. Bob Baffert, Johnny Lasquez runs back against Bookham Dano today after they ran 1-2 in the 1A Stevens. He's yet to win outside of California. He hasn't won since September of 23 after 2 layoffs, one kind of longer and one shorter. But why did they keep him here at Saratoga after the Woody Stevens? What did they know instead of shipping him back to California? That makes me a little keener on this horse. That's kind of how I read the situation. It's not like there's not anything in California that he could win, especially since September in California feels like it was his prime last year. So I don't know. Maybe they have something here. I would take a stab at it for sure.
Well, he did go back to California, but he came back. But yeah. I think the point is still very well taken that this was the spot all along they've been looking for. And that's why I think quite high of Prince Monaco's chances as well. I picked for second. He got beat by Bookham Dano, the Jersey bred, who's a really cool racehorse last out, but he got out of the gates terribly while Bookham Dano had, they went really fast up front. So it did make up for the fact that Prince Monaco got out of the gate slow, but still Bookham Dano, too good of a horse to spot that many lengths to. And like you said, I mean, this has been the goal clearly all along. Could have gone, I guess, in the Pat O'Brien at Del Mar. I think Bob was supposed to run Arabian Night at one point in that race. So maybe that's a part of it. Also could be related to the connections wanting to run at Saratoga, a little bit of the first, a little bit more of a race. The Pat O'Brien actually might be a grade 2 now that I think of it. For my pick, outside of Prince of Monaco, who I do like quite a bit as well, but I like number 1 world record most. I'm thinking he's going to be probably twice the price. And this is a son of gun runner that's always been well meant for Rudolph per se. Took money in all 3 starts in Kentucky, ran well, but not like last time on the Amsterdam when the blinkers were at it. And I think it made him a totally more focused, fast racehorse. And I don't really see any reason to think he's going to regress like many I expect handicappers to think so. So hopefully he can avoid getting caught up in a battle with the other likely pace setter in there, Little Knee, who hopefully will opt to just sit off the pace.
Yeah, I think this is probably the race I'm most excited for on the card besides the Travers. And of course, it parlays right into the Travers next.
Yeah.
So this is definitely a double that I'll be
Race.
playing for sure. Yeah,
Fantastic
really good
race
addition
for
this
sure,
year.
for sure. And our colleague Jeremy Plonk also wrote it up this week. And unfortunately, I think my price isn't going to be as good on World Record because if Jeremy likes them, it usually means that other people, you know what I mean. So
yeah,
we'll see. I'm hoping to get 5-1.
Other folks are following. Well, in addition to his stakes coverage of Saratoga, he did a 17 stakes races in 17 sentences blog on ExpressBet this week. If you guys haven't seen it, you definitely have to go check it out. Full of Jeremy Punk's classic dry wit, and I thought it was a really apt look at all these big stakes races as well.
Good stuff. All right, we got the big one.
The big one, the Travers 1.25 miles on the dirt. This is a 2-turn mile. I feel like we need to play the Halloween-like organ music, kind of.
Mile and a quarter. Mile and a quarter.
What did I say?
Mile.
Oh, 1.25 miles.
And they start all the way. It's like the Derby where they start all the way.
Yeah, they start back and then come around. Yeah. 2-turn 1.25 miles. Kind of tricky. I've got notes on every horse in this field. I have strong thoughts on probably every horse in this field. So why don't we go through the whole race back and forth? Ready?
Go ahead.
Okay. We'll start out number 1, Torpedo Anna.
Jeremy Plonk style, though. We don't want to,
Girl power. I know. We'll be quick. We won't keep everyone listening for 2.5 hours. Okay. First lifetime appearance at this distance. 2-turn route, like I said, hard to run. It's far, really far. First filly to win the Travers since the 60s, or since 1915. Fourth one to appear since the 60s, and they really haven't done a lot. I think she's been training really well up at the spa. I saw that video of her running off at Danny Arrington this week, which isn't great because you feel like she'd be a little more mature at this point, but, a grizzly's a grizzly. Undefeated against the girls. I am emotionally rooting for her. I don't think I can fully financially root for her. I don't think that she'll win. I think she'll hit the board, and I feel very strongly in that, but I don't think she'll win.
Well, I think she's a special filly, and I see nothing special about this crop of 3-year-old males. Yeah. And I think she stacks up from a thoroughbred perspective. She's run as fast of races as the top males in here, outside of Fierceness, a couple of freak efforts. Mm-hmm. I don't see any reason she can't win. Everybody's worried about the rail. I think Brian Hernandez Jr. will play the break. This is not a need the lead filly. I'm sure he'll take it if it's there, but I think he'll be more than happy to sit off Fierceness and Unmatched Wisdom, just right off them on the inside if he has to.
Yeah, that's how I think it'll go too. I think, especially if we want to talk about standout fillies from recent years, if there's any filly that could win the Travers, I think it's her. I mean, I've been super keen on her since the, Oaks and everything. I love this filly, and I will definitely, put some money into the win pool for her. Would I put all of my money? No, I would probably spread it out with maybe 2 others here in the field, but I think if this is anyone's race to win, it's hers.
Well, be careful. If she's 3-1 or so, you can't bet. If you bet her to win in other horses, you're going to be, taking away from any profits you might make.
That's right. You gotta know when to hold them and know when to fold them. That was a good one for you. All right, number 2, Sierra Leone. Less than ideal 2 spot here, given his historical drifting out behavior. Don't love that. Hasn't won since the Bluegrass. I liked him a lot for a really long time going into the Derby and Belmont, but I feel like he just keeps letting me down. I don't think I can put him up.
He doesn't win races. Everybody points to the race shape every time that he's going to get this big setup and He doesn't win races. He's going to hit the board. I don't have any him on top. If he beats me, he beats me.
Yeah. Unmatched Wisdom, like you said. I feel like this is the Chad Brown side dish to Sierra Leone's, meat and potatoes thing. Flavian Pratt jumps ship and takes Sierra Leone instead of Unmatched Wisdom. I think he's swimming out of his depth here. He'll probably go through lead, like you said, with the likes of Fierceness. Dornick sitting right behind. I think he'll fold.
Yeah, I mean, the upside's unlimited here. And if I talk about how limited I think this the quality is of these 3-year-old males, it's hard for me to just say he can't win when he's never lost a horse race. But, I do think he's got to step up big time in here. It is encouraging, though, that he's seemingly had no problem getting 1 1/8 distances at Saratoga.
Yeah, and, this is not that much further. I think he'll win another horse race. I just don't think that this is the horse race that he'll win.
Makes sense. I mean, if he doesn't win another horse race, they're going to be very disappointed, but it definitely happens.
It'll happen. All right, Corporate Tower comes in this race. Historically successful Travers connections. 7 wins for Hobby, 4 for Shug. First graded stakes start, respectable long shot. I just don't think this is a long shot race this year. I think he's kind of a little bit outclassed in this field, and so I wouldn't include him either.
He's way overmatched. His win in the
I'm trying to be nice.
That's a restricted special. Well, they want the takes. The people want the takes.
That's
Next.
True. Next. That's all we'll say. Batten down, Juddmont's homebred, 20-1 for Bill Mott. Big step up in class here from Ohio Derby to Jim Dandy to Travers. That was a pretty good Jim Dandy. I'll give him that. I just don't think it's a grade 1 Travers Torpedo Anna Dornick field, Gate to wire in a grade 3 does not equal standout performance in a grade 1 to me. I just don't see him coming out on top.
There was nothing in that Ohio Derby field to make that a grade 3, considering the fact that Catching Freedom didn't run a step really, and that was the only other real, legitimate, top tier 2-3-year-old. I think this horse got a class check in the Jim Dandy, and I don't see that changing. One thing that could happen though is Junior Alvarado could be a little more aggressive because it didn't work last time stalking. So maybe he gets involved, which sets it up for Sierra Leone, right?
Yeah, there you go. Speaking of closers, Honor Marie, the other deep closer here, historically less successful than Sierra Leone, appeared in 2 of the 3 Triple Crown races this year, 8th and 4th respectively in the Belmont. If the pace is as quick as I think it'll be, I think he'll struggle to close against this field, especially when you have another much stronger closer like Sierra Leone. I think he could probably run like 4th or 5th if he really tried, but he's got to really try.
I hope he really tries.
I hope he really tries. I'll try.
Linkers on for the first time before the it's not the biggest race of his career, but because he ran in the Derby and the Belmont, but it is at this point. I don't love the closer, especially. I don't like equipment changes, but he is a closer that I thought has had talent. I like what Whit Beckman does it, how he conducts things in his barn. He just has to prove it, and he hasn't. That said, he's going to be a huge price, and if the pace is hot, he's a must-use underneath.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming into one of the bigger horses in the race, and possibly my number 1 pick with Torpedo Anna, number 7, Dornick, the one to beat. And I will be the first one to admit, I was not a fan of this horse for the longest time. I thought he's good, but he's not that great, whatever. He wins the Belmont, he wins the Haskell, and then for me, stamped himself as a serious racehorse. Breaks really sharp, usually first out of the gates, and then sits just back to stalk other horses, lets them tire themselves out, and passes right by them. I think he'll sit right behind Fierceness, Torpedo Anna, maybe Unmatched Wisdom. Could easily push Fierceness to an unsustainable pace. I think this is probably the one to beat.
Well, he's the 5-2 favorite, and he's coming off the wins in 2 of the biggest races of the year. The one thing he has over Sierra Leone is he actually likes to get in a battle and win horse races. So if those 2 are in a battle, I'll take them every time. That said, he's drawing in between Fierceness on the outside, Batten down, and Unmatched Wisdom, and even Torpedo Anna. So what Luis Saez does is going to be key here, because he's not necessarily a guy that he's going to, take prisoners. He's going to want the lead as well. So, I'm not as confident as you that he can kind of sit further off the pace. I think he needs to be up and on it to be at his best.
Yeah, he's got to be right there. And then, of course, Fierceness to the outside. Fierceness, Florida Derby, great, fun race, loved watching it, a horse that loves to run. When Fierceness gets looked in the eye by other horses, he's just like, nope, no thanks, I don't want to be a racehorse today, I have to go backwards. I mean, what was that Derby performance? Not great. 15th out of 20 is not a good start for such a horse that was hyped so much, especially coming out of South Florida. I think he folds like a cheap suit and he backs down. He doesn't want the competition, and he's going to get plenty of that in this Travers edition. Coming off a win in the Jim Dandy, and this is a horse that's never put up back-to-back wins before. It took him taking the entire summer off from the Derby to win the Jim Dandy. I don't think he can do it.
Well, first off, the horses he beat in the Jim Dandy, I've been underwhelmed by, as we know.
Yeah.
Secondly, they weren't even going to run in this race after. When Todd was asked after the Jim Dandy, we don't like to run Fierceness back that quick. They thought Mindframe was their horse for the Travers. Mindframe done, obviously. Now he's peering. So, that's always been a conversation that Fierceness can't run back-to-back races together. And a lot of that is rest more than, if he ran a race next year, you could probably run back-to-back races together, right?
Sure.
So, yeah, I think, everybody that's listened knows Fierceness is not the kind of horse I like to bet on. He takes a ton of money every time, and you nailed it. He does not like to get in a battle, and he wilts. Sierra Leone at least keeps running. He wilts. So,
Oh yeah, he'll try. I mean, he doesn't care. He'll knock you out with the shoulder. But fierceness is just, I don't know. I don't know if he gets scared, but he just doesn't, want this kind of competition, which I think we'll really see. I think the last eighth of a mile in this race is going to be one of the best finishes that we've seen all year, outside of that Derby one, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, but these horses, I mean, it's Saratoga going a mile and a quarter. It can be a stag. I mean, I'd be surprised if 3 horses were finishing strong, but I hope you're right. That would be
It's far. It's pretty far. I looked at post position statistics, like wins by post position, to see, especially where these horses have drawn. The 1 hole wins 10% of the time. The 2, 11% of the time. The 7 for Dornick is 8%. And then the 8 where Fierceness is a abysmal 3.85%.
Before we wrap up, since you brought those up, let me ask you honestly, in a race that long with the long run to the first turn, why would post matter?
Oh, post always matters to me. This is my angle. This is my weird hunch intuition thing, is post position. Don't ask me why. It has let me down a couple times, but historically it hasn't.
Got tarot cards with you over there?
Yeah, they're actually. That's so funny. They're literally right here in the box of tarot cards on my desk.
Take everything with a grain of salt, folks.
Take everything with a grain of salt. I'm no full-time professional, but I know a thing or two about a thing or two. Especially, but like you said, though, it's not as important in a race this long. But I would never be one to toss it out the window. That's my
you got to use your
trick.
angles. If it works for you, it works for you. Personally, I don't think post matters in this race, other than the rail can always be a factor in races where there's multiple speed horses if you don't get out of the gate particularly well.
Yeah. Well, if your horse on the rail doesn't do great, Express Bet and First Bet have got a $20 money back special in the Travers, where you bet your horse to win, you come in second or third, and you'll get that money back up to 20. I know I'll be using it to play some of the horses in this field, in addition to that big 5 million point hit and split on the Lake Pick 4, starting in race number 10. Tons of great promos, tons of great content this weekend. Make sure you check it all out, especially Scott's vlog, and we'll see you next time on Horse Sense.